So a couple of days ago, Nintendo finally revealed the Switch 2. And at least in my humble opinion, the reveal was a bit, let's call it underwhelming. The whole thing was just a couple of minutes long. It didn't show any gameplay except for a few cinematic shots of the next Mario Kart. It didn't tell us a launch date, the price of the console, anything about games in the work, nor anything about the tech inside the console. They pretty much only confirmed the leaks without telling us anything new at all. It almost felt a bit underwhelming by design. So why would they do this? Why would they reveal the Switch 2 in such an underwhelming way? One might ask. And I think the answer to this question is pretty obvious, isn't it? They don't want us to get hyped yet. Nintendo's marketing gurus plan to carefully control the global hype level to their strategic advantage. In Nintendo's global hype protocol, the hyping is scheduled to only begin in April. Any Switch 2 hype before April is unintended. They only confirmed the leaks so that we all can finally shut up about the Switch 2 until Nintendo is finally ready to start the global hype train in April. But I don't want to follow a laid out hype trail. I want to be hyped already. I don't want my hype level to be controlled by an international company. I don't want to be hyped tomorrow. I want to be hyped today. But if Nintendo isn't willing to tell us anything we don't already know about the Switch 2 or the next mainline Mario game, then how to get hyped? And then I had an idea. You see, we might not know anything about Nintendo's plans for the future of the Mario series yet, but we do know a lot about its past. While we don't know what the setting of the next game will be, we know all the places that Mario has visited before. We might not know the villain of the next Mario game, but we do know exactly whom our plumber defeated in the past. And while we might not know the exact release date of the upcoming Mario game yet, we certainly know how many days historically passed between two mainline Mario releases. Or in other words, we can take a look at all the mainline Mario games from the past, analyze their setting and story, calculate how probable certain tropes are to appear in a Mario game in general, and try to predict certain elements of the next Mario game with this data. You know, how likely is it that the plot of the next Mario game will be about Peach getting kidnapped? How likely is Bowser going to be the villain? If Bowser is the villain, is it more or less likely that the game takes place in a Mushroom Kingdom? What is the most likely release date for Plumber's next grand adventure? And most importantly, is Princess Peach more or less likely to be kidnapped if Yoshi is a gameplay element? In this video, we'll go on a quite unusual journey to finally answer all those questions. We will do a close reading of the story and setting of every single mainline Mario game, and while we do this, we will quantify certain aspects of those games' stories and settings. Once we quantified all those elements of past Mario games, we'll use our newly gained knowledge to statistically predict the most probable setting, story and release date of the next mainline Mario game. Because after all, if Nintendo doesn't want to tell us anything about the future of the Mario series yet, then we can only get hyped by turning to the past. So gentle ladies, gentlemen and gentle people in general, are you ready? Then let's do this. Alrighty right, before we analyze the story and setting of every Mario game, let's first talk about our analyzing tools. First, this here is what I'd like to call our kidnapping counter. So what is our kidnapping counter going to count, one might ask? Well, how often Princess Peach got kidnapped in the history of the Mario series, obviously. Second, this here is our individual title board. So every single individual Mario game will get one of these. On this board, we track several things. First, we track whether Bowser was the big bad evil guy in that game. Second, we note down whether the game took place in Mushroom Kingdom or somewhere else. Third, we note down whether Peach got kidnapped in this specific game. And finally, we track whether Yoshi is a gameplay element. Once we took a look at all 21 mainline Mario games this way, we can then put the data side by side and see if we can do some statistical predictions. So let's start at the beginning. Let's start with Super Mario Bros. On the NES. So the story of the very first Mario game is pretty simple. We learn about it in the instruction booklet of the game. One day, the evil Koopa tribe, who is known for their dark magic, invades the peaceful Mushroom Kingdom and turns all its inhabitants into stones and bricks. Only Princess Peach is capable of reversing the evil spell fell, but she got kidnapped by an evil turtle called Bowser. Our only hope, a plumber called Mario. So first, yes, technically all the bricks in the Mario games are people. Technically we always kill an inhabitant of the Mushroom Kingdom when we destroy a brick block. That's one of those little Mario trivia facts that Nintendo would rather have us all forget nowadays. But other than that, there are no surprises here. The villain is Bowser, the game takes place in the Mushroom Kingdom, Yoshi doesn't make an appearance, and most importantly, the kidnapped princess counter counts up to 1. Okay, so since I can already hear you typing, you know what? Let's settle this controversy immediately before things become ugly. So why Super Mario Bros. On the NES? Why are we starting with this game? Why are we ignoring 1981's Donkey Kong arcade game? Why are we starting our quantitative analysis of Super Mario with Mario's first appearance in a video game? And that's for 2 very simple reasons. So first, the guy jumping around here isn't a plumber called Mario. Technically, he's a carpenter called Jumpman. They retroactively called him Mario, including games of characters into a dataset that only retroactively are considered to be about Mario is surely to mess with our data. But that's not even the main problem here. The main problem is someone else. Look, I don't care how many of you tell me that this is a Mario game. It just isn't. The game is simply not about Mario. Just take a look at the name. It's obviously a Donkey Kong game. Which brings us to 1986, Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. The story of the Lost Levels is the exact same as the story of Super Mario Bros. Quite literally, it's the exact same story happening again in a parallel universe. So it's Bowser, it's the Mushroom Kingdom, it's a kidnapped princess, and no Yoshi. Hooray! Next, Mario's third adventure, Super Mario Bros. 2. This game's story is quite unusual for a Mario game. Our plumber has a strange dream about the dreamland of Subcon. Subcon is threatened by an evil frog called Wart. And thus, Mario, Toadstool, Luigi and Peach set out to defeat the evil frog and to save the day. There's no Bowser, there's no Mushroom Kingdom, no kidnapping, and no Yoshi to be seen. Quite an unusual Mario game. Which already brings us to 1988's Super Mario Bros. 3. So in Super Mario Bros. 3, Bowser and his 7 children, the Koopalings, conquer the 7 kingdoms by stealing the 7 magical wands and then transform the kingdom's rulers into animals. No kidnapping so far, but after we save the 7th kingdom, all of a sudden, a plot twist. Suddenly we receive a note telling us that Bowser has indeed kidnapped Peach. Add 1 to the kidnapped princess counter. The evil guy is Bowser, no Yoshi so far, and the game takes place in a mushroom world. Careful here, it's a trap, because that's actually not the Mushroom Kingdom. The game's booklet clearly states that the game takes place in a mushroom world, which is entered via the Mushroom Kingdom. The Mushroom Kingdom and the Mushroom World are 2 separate places. And Super Mario Bros. 3 isn't the last game that doesn't take place in our beloved Mushroom Kingdom, which already brings us to 1989's Super Mario Land. In this game, the once peaceful kingdom of Sarasa Land is attacked by the mysterious space creature Tatanga. Tatanga now kidnaps the princess to marry her. Namely, he kidnaps Princess Daisy. Huh. That complicates things. You see, it would be quite unfair if we were to count the Daisy kidnapping as a Peach kidnapping. After all, Princess Peach managed to safely stay in her castle for once. But we also have to count the kidnapping, because otherwise we can't calculate the actual probability of a kidnapping to happen later on. So, let's just split our kidnapped princess counter in 2 here, and let's count princess kidnappings separately to Princess Peach kidnappings. Hooray! Next up, 1990's Super Mario World. In this game, Peach, Mario and Luigi take a well-earned vacation on Dinosaur Island, when all of a sudden, you'll never guess it, Bowser kidnaps Princess Peach. Oh and no. Add 1 to all the kidnapped princess counters. But even more interestingly, it is finally time for everyone's favorite dinosaur to enter the statistics. Yoshi makes his first appearance in this game. Yoshi! Hooray! We're making really good progress so far. So far, it has been really easy to quantify our little data points. Sadly, we're about to run into our first major problem once we take a look at the next game. 1992's Super Mario Land 2, The 6 Golden Coins. So, at first glance, the story of this game seems to be pretty straightforward. While Mario was away saving Daisy in Super Mario Land, a jealous childhood acquaintance of Mario, called Wario, suddenly popped up. This evil acquaintance now put an evil spell over Mario's private island, called Mario Land. Even worse, he not only cursed Mario's island, but he also scattered Mario's 6 golden coins all over the place. So the evil guy is Wario. No kidnappings this time. Yoshi does not appear and the game takes place in... well, that's where we run into our first big problem. Is Mario Land part of the Mushroom Kingdom, or is Mario Land a separate place? Like seriously. Where is Mario Land? The game doesn't answer this question. Mario's private island never pops up again in any other games, and the instruction booklet doesn't give a clear answer on the definitive location of Mario Land either. Where is Mario Land? One would assume that Mario's private island is part of the Mushroom Kingdom. But the only other hint on the location of Mario Land that I was able to find is in an old issue of a Nintendo Power magazine, and there Mario Land is referred to as Mario's Kingdom. And this makes everything so terribly confusing. Because if Mario Land is Mario's Kingdom, then it seems to suggest that Mario's Kingdom is a separate administrative unit to the Mushroom Kingdom, doesn't it? So I really tried to find a definitive answer that allows us to solve this little mess, but for now we can't answer this with certainty. I decided to continue our work under the assumption that Mario Land is a separate place from the Mushroom Kingdom, mainly because of the Nintendo Power referring to it as Mario's Kingdom, but we have to keep in mind that it is very much possible that further academic research into this topic might reveal contradicting information. For now, we count it as a separate place. Next, 1995's Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. The next little mess. So many years ago, Kamek foresaw that Mario and Luigi will one day cause Bowser a lot of headache, and thus Bowser sent a Magic Cooper to kidnap baby Mario and baby Luigi before they grow up to be a threat to all the evil turtles of the world. But the kidnapping doesn't work as planned, only Luigi is abducted. Baby Mario, however, drops down onto Yoshi's Island, directly onto Yoshi's back, and together the two set out to rescue Luigi. So the easy stuff first. We actually know the location of Yoshi's Island. It is part of Dinosaur Land and thus not part of the Mushroom Kingdom. Yoshi is obviously a gameplay element, the evil guy is Bowser, and the kidnappings... well, this is where things become a bit messy again, because Luigi is neither Princess Peach nor a princess in general, but there is a kidnapping going on nonetheless. A Luigi kidnapping. We should count this, shouldn't we? So let's split our kidnapping counter once again and let's count Princess Peach kidnappings, princess kidnappings and general kidnappings separately. Sorry for the confusion, we really should have defined this better before we started counting. Though I'm sure that's the last time we run into problems with the kidnapping counter. Next up, 1996 Super Mario 64. So first, the game takes place in a Mushroom Kingdom and Yoshi is no gameplay element, even though he makes an appearance. As for the plot, Princess Peach baked a cake for Mario. When Mario arrives to devour the delicious dessert, Princess Peach is nowhere to be found. And even worse, there is no cake either. Oh, and no, Bowser kidnapped them both. Add 1 to all of our kidnapping counters. That was simple, but sadly, things are about to get messy again. Which brings us to 2002's Super Mario Sunshine. Super Mario Sunshine is complicated. So first the game takes place on Isle Delfino, while Mario, Toadstool and Princess Peach are on a well-earned vacation. The plot is about an evil Shadow Mario doppelganger who is painting graffitis all over Isle Delfino. Mario is mistaken for his evil lookalike and forced to clean up the place. So far so good. But then things become messy, because then this evil lookalike attempts to kidnap Princess Peach, but we rescue her immediately after. Once we collect the 10 Shine Sprites, another kidnapping takes place. This time it is successful and Shadow Mario, who is revealed to be Bowser Jr., escapes with Princess Peach. Together, with the support of everyone's favorite dinosaur, we make our way to their hideout and in the end defeat Bowser and Jr. atop a hot tub. Okay, so far so good. The problem is once again the dumb kidnapping counter. How to count the failed kidnapping. Technically, Princess Peach got kidnapped twice in this game, but do we add 2 to our kidnapping counters in that case, or do failed kidnappings not count towards the kidnapping total? But isn't every Princess Peach kidnapping a failed kidnapping in the end? It's a total mess. How to count several kidnappings in a single game? So after having meditated about this question for the better part of my weekend, I came to the conclusion that it is probably correct to count the kidnappings as just one kidnapping instance. The thing is the following: if we were to count the short short-lived kidnapping here, then this would be technically correct. After all, the total amount of kidnappings in the Mario series undoubtedly increased when Shadow Mario threw Peach over his shoulder here. However, this would also mean that this failed kidnapping would influence the probability for future kidnappings to happen as a plot device in the series once we do a quantitative analysis of the kidnapping total. And this is, and I do not say this lightly, scientifically untenable. Or to say it in simpler terms, the quantitative sum of kidnappings per game can't influence the probability for kidnappings themselves as a plot device if we're serious about our science. So for the sake of scientific accuracy, we will only count it as a single kidnapping. After all, we don't want people to raise the accusation that all of this isn't scientifically serious. Moving on. 2006 New Super Mario Bros. This game is as straightforward as they come. Bowser Jr. kidnaps Princess Peach close to the Mushroom Kingdom. Mario sets out to rescue her and in the end defeats Bowser. It's the Mushroom Kingdom, it's Bowser, it's a princess kidnapping, and it's a Yoshi-less game. Thank you, New Super Mario Bros. That was easy. Which already brings us to 2007's Super Mario Galaxy. In this game, Mario is on his way to Princess Peach while the Star Festival is going on, when all of a sudden a UFO appears and Princess Peach is kidnapped by Bowser. It's time to rescue her again. And thus Mario sets out, explores outer space, collects power stars, and in the end defeats the evilest of all turtles. And he does all of this without Yoshi's help. What a plumber. Next up is 2009's New Super Mario Bros. Wii. In this game, Bowser Jr. kidnaps Princess Peach on her birthday via, I dare I say it, brilliant cake infiltration plan. It was the perfect crime. Sadly, for kidnapping turtles, Mario and Luigi are willing to chase all over the Mushroom Kingdom to, in the end, save Princess Peach from Bowser's evil hands once again. This time, however, Yoshi is helping them. No surprises here. What about 2010 Super Mario Galaxy 2? Well, the plot of Super Mario Galaxy 2 is pretty much a repeat of the plot of the first Galaxy game. It's the Star Festival again, Peach gets kidnapped once again, Bowser is the big bad evil guy once again. The only change is that this time Yoshi is helping our plumber along. Hooray! 2011's Super Mario 3D Land is next. One day, the super leaves of the tail tree all disappear. Soon after, Mario receives a letter from Bowser, informing him that the princess has officially been kidnapped. No surprises here. 3D Land, however, is notable for being the first mainline Mario game in which Princess Peach actually manages to escape her kidnappers for a moment. Luckily for us, she's promptly re-kidnapped, because I have no idea how we would ever count a kidnapping that ends with Princess Peach escaping herself. Yoshi is not in this game. Next up, 2012's New Super Mario Bros. 2. Another really straightforward Mario game. While Mario and Luigi are out coin mining, Princess Peach is suddenly kidnapped by the Koopa Links. The game takes place in the Mushroom Kingdom, Yoshi doesn't pop up, and in the end, they defeat Bowser. Awesome. Sadly, the next Mario game is not that easy for us to count. 2012's New Super Mario Bros. U is about to cause us problems. So, in this game, Mario and Luigi are dining with Princess Peach, when all of a sudden, a gigantic mech hand comes out of the sky, kindly removes our plumbers from the dining scene and takes over the castle, with the princess still inside. Oh no. Mario now jumps together with Yoshi through the entire Mushroom Kingdom, back to the very castle in which Bowser is holding Princess Peach a prisoner. So at first glance, the story is pretty straightforward. But it isn't. There is actually something quite unusual going on in the story here. Something unusual that makes things weirdly complicated for us. You see, Bowser never moves Peach around. She stays in the castle over the entire course of the game. Bowser takes over the castle of Princess Peach, but he doesn't take her to his own castle like he usually does. You see the problem? Legally speaking, that's not kidnapping. That's false imprisonment. It's only kidnapping if you actually move your victim around. You see, every kidnapping is also false imprisonment, but not every false imprisonment is necessarily a kidnapping. Or at least in most countries, to be honest, I'm not even sure what legal jurisdictions apply exactly in the Mushroom Kingdom. Is it US law? Japanese? Do they have their own codified legislation? I have no idea. So it would make sense if we were to count this false imprisonment as a kidnapping, but we just can't add one to all of our kidnapping counters, because technically no one got kidnapped that day. I honestly thought a lot about how to handle this stupid special case, and I think there's just one thing that we can do here. We have to change our counting categories to be better reflective of the crimes that we're actually tracking. Again, so I'm super sorry everyone, this one is really on me. I should have thought this better through in the beginning. We have to change the kidnapped Princess Peach counter, the kidnapped princess counter, and the general kidnappings counter into the kidnapped, abducted, or falsely imprisoned Princess Peach counter, the kidnapped, abducted, or falsely imprisoned princess counter, and the general kidnappings counter into the general kidnappings, abductions, or false imprisonments counter, so that they're better reflective of what we're actually attempting to count. So let's add 1 to all of our abduction, kidnapping, or false imprisonment counters, and let's move on. Next up is 2013's Super Mario 3D World. In this game, Mario, Luigi, and Peach are on a walk when they suddenly encounter a glass pipe. Driven by a sudden urge to plumb, Mario and Luigi immediately repair the pipe. Suddenly, items and a Sprixie princess escape the pipe. The princess begs her heroes for help before Bowser reappears and kidnaps the Sprixie princess. Oh, and no, our heroes follow Bowser into the Sprixie kingdom where they ultimately defeat him. All of this without Yoshi's help. So this game takes place in the Sprixie kingdom, Bowser is the evil guy, and we can add 1 to the general abductions, kidnappings, or false imprisonment counter, 1 to the kidnapping, abduction, or false imprisonment counter for princesses, but none to the counter exclusive to kidnappings, abductions, or false imprisonments of Princess Peach. Hooray! Only 3 more games to take a look at. Next, 2017's Super Mario Odyssey. The story begins in the Mushroom Kingdom. Mario is defeated and Bowser kidnaps Princess Peach. After teaming up with the magical Cap Cappy, Mario chases Bowser through many different kingdoms and manages to cross Bowser's plan to forcefully marry Peach. So, Odyssey is a bit complicated. First, where does the game take place? It starts and ends in the Mushroom Kingdom, and the Mushroom Kingdom is a playable area, but most of the game takes place in kingdoms that are not the Mushroom Kingdom, like the Sand Kingdom or Bowser's Kingdom or whatever Luncheon Kingdom is again. So does the game count as taking place in the Mushroom Kingdom or not? And the answer is no. I think it only makes sense to count games as taking place in the Mushroom Kingdom if at least half the game takes place there. Otherwise, things get messy fast. So Odyssey raises all our abduction, kidnapping, and false imprisonment counters. Bowser is the big bad evil guy, and the game does not primarily take place in the Mushroom Kingdom. Yoshi is a playable gameplay element, even though he's not rideable in this game. Awesome. Only 2 more games. First, 2021's Bowser's Fury. So one day, Mario is taking a walk when all of a sudden, black goop forms in front of him on the ground. He falls through the goop and lands in Lake Lapcat. There, he encounters a gigantic version of Bowser, a gigantic Bowser that Bowser Jr. accidentally created. Eventually, the two manage to defeat Bowser and to return him back to his normal form. So, we have Bowser, but no kidnappings, abductions, or false imprisonments, no Yoshis, nor does the game take place in the Mushroom Kingdom. Awesome. Finally, 2023's Super Mario Bros. Wonder. The game begins with Mario, Luigi, Peach, and the rest of the gang being invited to the Flower Kingdom. A kingdom ruled by Prince Florian. As Prince Florian shows off the wonderful Wonder Flower, Bowser Jr. and Kamek suddenly appear. In an unprecedented case of evilldom, Bowser merges with the flower, causing him to transform into a big fancy castle. What a catastrophe. Mario immediately sets out to fix this little mishap. Eventually, he enters the castle and beats Bowser up for one final time. Awesome. So the evil turtle at the center of the plot is Bowser. The game takes place in the Flower Kingdom. There are no kidnappings, abductions, or false imprisonments going on, and Yoshi, well, Yoshi is a playable character in this game and a gameplay element, but we only count this as one Yoshi appearance. Hooray! With this, we actually made it. We just took a look at the story of all 21 mainline Mario games. However, we aren't quite finished yet, because there's one more thing that we have to discuss, and that is all the remakes and re-releases. You know, most Mario games got eventually remade or were re-released several times. How to count those? So first, it wouldn't make any sense to count all re-releases as separate entries in the series, because that would royally mess with our data. You know, the probability of a Mario game taking place in space did not magically increase just because Mario Galaxy got re-released in a Mario All-Star collection. If we were to count all remakes and re-releases, it would lead to a massive overrepresentation of some games in our data, since not all of the games were remade and re-released equally often. It also wouldn't make any sense to count them in the first place, because most remakes are identical to the original anyway. But what are we going to do with the rare cases in which a remake changed a certain aspect of the original game? If, say, Bowser were to suddenly be no longer the villain in the remake, how would we count this? And the answer is Well, if we are serious about counting remakes together with the original games, and if there is a change in the remake, then the only scientifically reasonable thing to do is to weigh the data points accordingly. We just have to add all the remakes and the original together and divide the total to end up with an accurate dataset. So why do I bring this up, one might ask? Are there even any notable differences between the original games and the remakes? And the answer is yes. There is exactly one such instance, Super Mario 64 DS. In the DS remake of Mario 64, Yoshi is actually a playable character, but he isn't in the original release. We have to consider this in our data. So Yoshi is a gameplay element in the original Super Mario 64 DS and in the re-release of Mario 64 DS on the Wii U. But he did not appear as a gameplay element in the original Mario 64 on the N64, neither on the re-release of the game on the Wii, the Wii U, the Nintendo 64 Online, nor in the remake of the game that got released in the Mario 3D All-Star Edition. So out of the 7 releases of Mario 64, Yoshi appeared only in 2 of them as a playable gameplay element, which means that Yoshi appeared in 28.571% of releases of Mario 64. So we end up with 2/7 of a Yoshi in Mario 64 and 64 DS. A simple and clean solution. Hooray! So gentle ladies, gentlemen, and gentle people in general, with this we actually did it. We just took a look at the story of every single mainline Mario game and analyzed where the game took place, who the evil bad guy was, if Yoshi was a gameplay element, and whether Princess Peach got kidnapped, abducted, or falsely imprisoned in the game. Let's take a look at the results and let's have some fun with the data. So first, Mario is actually the protagonist in 100% of mainline Mario games. Shocking. I know. However, he only has a mustache in 95.2% of all those games. So how's that? Well, because he doesn't have a mustache in Yoshi's Island. Nonetheless, I'm confident in our first prediction, namely that Mario will have a mustache in his next game. So out of the 21 games that we just took a look at, Bowser was the villain in 18 of them. This means Bowser ended up being the evil guy in 85.7 of all mainline Mario games. What is interesting about this, however, is that the 3 games in which Bowser ended up not being the villain were all very early on in the history of the Mario franchise. Since 1995, the villain of every single Mario game ended up being Bowser. So, since 100% of mainline Mario games in the last 3 decades featured Bowser as the main villain, I think it is safe to assume that the next game will feature Bowser as the big bad evil guy as well. What's also interesting about this is that Wario only made a single appearance as Mario's adversary. Technically, Wario opposed Mario as often as Ward or Tatange did. You know, maybe we were all a bit too quick to judge poor Wario. Just saying. Let's talk kidnappings, abductions, or false imprisonments. So 81% of all Mario games use a kidnapping plot, which is an overwhelming majority. There are only 4 games ever made that aren't about a kidnapping. What is really interesting, however, is when those 4 games were made, because the first 2 non-kidnapping Mario games happened in the very early history of the franchise. After the 6 golden coins, there is a 22-year-long kidnapping, abduction, or false imprisonment streak going on. From 1995 until 2017, each and every Mario game revolved around a kidnapping or false imprisonment. But the 2 most recent Mario games did not. Bowser's Fury and Mario Wonder both don't have anyone being abducted. So it looks as if in recent years Nintendo has been slowly moving away from this trope, and thus I don't think that it is safe to assume that the next game will be about a kidnapping, even though it is more probable than not. Let's talk about Princess Peach. Exactly 2/3 of Mario games, or 66.7%, feature a plot in which Peach gets either abducted or imprisoned. What's really interesting is to take a look at when Peach got kidnapped the most, because it appears as if our princess has better decades and worse ones. For example, from 1996 to 2012, she got abducted in every single game. But in the past 14 years, she only got kidnapped a single time in Mario Odyssey. So my best guess is that she finally upped the security measurements considerably in the past decade. What about Yoshi? Well, Yoshi is a gameplay element in exactly 8 2/7 out of all 21 Mario games, or in roughly 39.452%. What is interesting about Yoshi's appearance, however, is that Yoshi seems to influence the chance of a kidnapping to happen. Out of the 8 2/7 1/7 of Mario games that feature Yoshi as a gameplay element. A kidnapping took place in all but one of them. Every game that featured Yoshi had a kidnapping but Mario Wonder. If Yoshi is a gameplay element, then there is an 88% chance for a kidnapping, an abduction or a false imprisonment to happen. So if I were Princess Peach, I'd stay the heck away from that dinosaur. Even more interestingly, there is a 100% chance for Bowser to be the villain if Yoshi appears in the game. So I'm not into conspiracy or anything. You know, I'm just pointing out that it is quite interesting that Bowser seems to follow Yoshi on every step. Isn't it? Let's talk about locations. Interestingly, only 38.1% of Mario games take place in a Mushroom Kingdom. The majority of games have Mario visit a different place. The second most common location for a Mario game to take place in is outer space, with 9.5% of all Mario games taking place there. The two Galaxy games, obviously. What is however interesting about the Mushroom Kingdom is that every single game that takes place there has not only Bowser as a villain, but also features a kidnapping or false imprisonment of Princess Peach. If a game takes place in a Mushroom Kingdom, Peach seems to get kidnapped by default. So if I were Princess Peach, I'd not only stay away from that wicked dinosaur, but I'd also try to get out of the Mushroom Kingdom as fast as possible. But careful here, she has to move out of the Mushroom Kingdom permanently and not just to go on a vacation, because vacations happen to have a 100% kidnapping rate as well. Interestingly, Peach only gets abducted or falsely imprisoned in 77.8% of games in which Bowser is the evil guy, which seems to suggest that Yoshi and the Mushroom Kingdom are actually the bigger danger to her than the evil king of the Koopa tribe. If a game does not take place in a Mushroom Kingdom, the chance for Princess Peach to get kidnapped suddenly drops below 50%. What is also interesting is that it seems as if there has been some change of heart going on with Bowser recently. After all, up until 2012, 92.9% of games that featured Bowser had him kidnap Princess Peach. But believe it or not, in the past 13 years, he only attempted to kidnap, abduct or falsely imprison her in a single game. So it looks as if Bowser is slowly coming to terms with the fact that Peach will never marry him, and thus he's exploring other criminal ventures like flower theft, fairy abduction or lake terrorizement. Let's see if we can identify some historic trends. So if we divide the Mario franchise into 4 equally long historical periods, then we can see a couple of interesting things. So first, the 4 periods are the very early period from 1985 to 1994, followed by a period in which we got very few Mario games, the teenage period of the franchise from 1995 to 2004. Then we get the golden period with lots of Mario games from 2005 to 2014, followed by the contemporary period from 2015 to 2024. Interestingly enough, the amount of new Mario games that Nintendo released varied drastically from period to period. In the very early period, for example, we got 7 games in just 9 years. In the teenage period, however, we only got 3 Mario games: Yoshi's Island, Mario 64 and Mario Sunshine. But the 9 years that followed this era is the period in which the most Mario games got released. We got 8 mainline Mario games in less than a decade back then. Finally, the past 9 years have been rather slow again. There were only 3 new Mario games released since 2015. So, are there certain tropes that appear more often in certain periods? Well, yes. For example, Bowser has been a villain in every single game of every period but the early period, suggesting that the rivalry between Mario and Bowser only grew more fierce over the years. Even more interestingly, only 2 out of the 7 early games took place in the Mushroom Kingdom, and only 1 out of 3 games of the teenage era. So in the first half of the franchise's life cycle, the Mushroom Kingdom actually wasn't a very popular setting, but then all of a sudden it had a massive renaissance. During the golden period, 5 out of 8 games took place there. So all of this would make one believe that the Mushroom Kingdom became a more popular location as time moved on. But interestingly enough, in the contemporary era, not a single Mario game took place in a Mushroom Kingdom, which really shows us how difficult it is to predict the future using historic trends. With that being said, let's try to predict the future using historic trends. Let's see what we can learn about the possible release date of Mario's next game. So the 3 longest waits between Mario games so far were: first, the wait between Sunshine and New Super Mario Bros., a wait that lasted for 1,396 days. Second, the wait between Mario 3 3D World and Odyssey. Here we had to wait for 1435 days between releases. But finally, there is the by far longest wait that ever happened between Mario games. The wait between Mario 64 and Mario Sunshine. 2217 days, or roughly 6 years, passed between the releases of those games. Alright, but what is the average waiting time? Well, between the release of Super Mario Bros. On the NES and Super Mario Wonder, exactly 13,916 days passed. If we divide this number by 21, which is the amount of Mario games that Nintendo released over the years, then we get the average number of days between Mario releases. And this is 662.67 days. So the statistically most probable release date for the next mainline Mario game is 662.67 days after the release of Mario Wonder, which is the 12th of August 2025. Actually, it's the late afternoon of the 12th of August, 2025, to be precise. Hooray! So let's take one final look at our data and let's speculate what the most probable next Mario game is. So statistically, the next Mario game will not take place in the Mushroom Kingdom, but it will feature Bowser. Statistically, it is most likely that the plot revolves around a kidnapping or false imprisonment, but it's not certain that Peach is the victim of this crime. Yoshi is likely not to appear, but if he does, Princess Peach will almost certainly get kidnapped. Mario has a chance of over 90% to have a mustache, and statistically, the game will release on the afternoon of the 12th of August 2025. Hooray! So here we have it, the best predictions that I'm able to make about the next Mario game, as long as Nintendo doesn't give us anything more to work with. So obviously, don't take this too seriously, it's mainly just us taking a look at obscure Mario trivia to pass the time until Nintendo finally drops some actual news to talk about. Before we wrap this up, just two more things. So first, a gigantic Switch 2 leak causing thank you to all my incredible patrons whose names are currently scrolling by. YouTube is a bit of a difficult platform to work for simply because of how unpredictable it is to work for a huge AI-based algorithmical overlord without any human oversight. The people whose names are currently scrolling by are adding a human element to this Lovecraftian equation, which makes this whole operation possible in the first place. A gigantic thank you to all of them for this. Finally, before we wrap this up, I thought I might share my best guess about what the next Mario game will actually be with all of you lovely Mario people. Predictions based on my gut feeling instead of scientifically totally accurate data. So in my opinion, there is only one logical next step to take the Mario franchise into, a logical step towards which the series has been evolving for a while now, and that is an actual open world platformer game. A Mario game that shakes up the Mario formula in a way similar to how Breath of the Wild shook up the Zelda formula. Bowser's Fury already was an attempt at a semi-open world Mario, but it was probably held back by the Switch's aging hardware. If the Switch 2 features faster storage, which it almost certainly does, then this should allow Nintendo to overcome the technical problems that an open world platformer causes them, making such a game possible to create the first time. My best prediction is that they will let us loose in an open world and then ask us to collect stuff like moons all over the place while being totally free in where we explore. That's my gut feeling, but in the end I'm just guessing here. Awesome. Finally, a huge shout out and thank you to the incredibly well curated Super Mario Wiki. Honestly, a huge thank you to everyone who is contributing to it. The research behind a video like this would be close to impossible if the wiki weren't as excellent as it is. Hooray! So thank you for watching this silly little video. If you enjoyed it, leaving a thumbs up is what the Nintendo Switch 2 would do. If you really enjoyed it, subscribing might be a good idea. And if you truly loved the video and want to help content like this to survive on the platform, then there is also the option to support the channel via Patreon. Until next time, lots of hugs.